Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt, was not Egyptian. She was Greek. Her family had ruled Egypt for 300 years and never bothered to learn the language. She was the first of her dynasty who did, and that is the least surprising thing about her. Almost everything you think you know about Cleopatra came from the men who destroyed her. Rome wrote her story, and Rome had reasons to lie. 20 things they got wrong about the most famous woman in the ancient world. Subscribe. Let's go. Number 1. She wasn't Egyptian. She was Macedonian Greek. Cleopatra descended from Ptolemy, one of Alexander the Great's generals, who took Egypt when Alexander's empire was carved up. Her family ruled from Alexandria for roughly 3 centuries, married mostly within itself, and stayed culturally Greek the entire time. Cleopatra was about as Egyptian as a British governor was Indian. Number 2. Her family ruled Egypt for 300 years without learning Egyptian. Not one of them. For 3 centuries, the rulers of Egypt could not speak to the people they ruled without an interpreter. Cleopatra was, by the ancient accounts, the first, and she didn't stop there. Number 3. She may have spoken as many as 9 languages. Plutarch wrote that she rarely needed an interpreter and could address Ethiopians, Hebrews, Arabs, Syrians, Medes, and Parthians in their own tongues. She was not a decorative queen. She was a working diplomat who did her own negotiating in the room in your language. Number 4. She was a serious scholar. She was educated in mathematics, astronomy, rhetoric, and philosophy, and ancient writers credit her with works on medicine and cosmetics. She ran the wealthiest kingdom in the Mediterranean through famine, plague, and currency crisis, and she devalued the coinage deliberately to keep exports competitive. Rome called her a seductress. She was a head of state doing macroeconomics. Now here's the one nobody wants to hear. Number 5. She probably wasn't beautiful, and it didn't matter. The coins minted in her own lifetime under her own authority show a woman with a hooked nose, a jutting chin, and a hard, sharp face. She approved those images, and Plutarch, writing about her, said her beauty was not in itself incomparable, that what was irresistible was her presence, her voice, and the way she talked. Rome couldn't accept that a woman had outthought them, so they said she must have seduced them. 2,000 years later, we still cast the actress instead of the negotiator. Number 6. Her family married each other for 300 years. The Ptolemies practiced sibling marriage as royal policy, imitating the old pharaohs. Brothers married sisters. Uncles married nieces. Cleopatra herself was married to 2 of her own younger brothers. The dynasty's family tree does not branch, it braids. Number 7. She had her siblings killed. This was normal in her family. The Ptolemies murdered each other with striking regularity, but Cleopatra was good at it. Her sister Asino, who had rebelled against her, was dragged in chains through Rome and later executed on the steps of a temple, at Cleopatra's urging. Her brothers, her rivals, did not survive her. She was not the victim of her dynasty. She was its most successful practitioner. Number 8. The carpet story is probably wrong, but the stunt was real. The famous image is Cleopatra smuggled to Caesar, rolled inside a carpet. The ancient source actually describes a bedsack or bedding roll. Either way, the point stands. She was 21, locked out of her own capital by her brother's faction, and she had herself packaged like luggage and carried past armed guards into the room of the most powerful man alive. Then she talked. By morning, Caesar had switched sides. Number 9. She had a son with Julius Caesar. His name was Caesarion, Little Caesarion, and she paraded him as Caesar's living heir. This mattered enormously because Rome's other claimant to Caesar's legacy was a young man named Octavian, who had been merely adopted. A real son, sitting in Egypt with the richest treasury in the world, was an existential problem. Octavian would eventually solve it the way Romans solved things. Number 10. She and Mark Antony founded a drinking club. They called themselves the Inimitable Livers, a society dedicated to spectacular feasting and excess, and later, as things darkened, renamed it those about to die together. Rome was appalled, which was rather the point. They had 3 children. Antony gave her Roman territory. To Rome, that wasn't romance, that was treason. Number 11. Almost everything bad you've heard about her was written by her enemy. Octavian ran what was, in effect, the ancient world's most successful smear campaign, casting Cleopatra as a decadent foreign seductress who had unmanned a Roman hero with sorcery and sex. It worked. He won the war, and then he wrote the history. Every source we have about her comes to us through Roman hands, after Rome had every reason to destroy her name. Number 12, and the Pearl story. She supposedly drank a fortune. According to Pliny, Cleopatra bet Antony she could spend 10 million sesterces on a single meal, then dissolved an enormous pearl in a cup of vinegar and drank it. Modern chemists have argued about whether it's even possible. Strong vinegar can dissolve a pearl, but slowly. It may well be a Roman story invented to prove her decadence. But it survived 2,000 years, and that tells you how badly Rome wanted you to believe it. Now, about the snake. Number 13. The snake probably never happened. It is the most famous death in the ancient world, and the evidence for it is remarkably thin. No snake was ever found. An asp large enough to kill reliably would be difficult to smuggle and hard to hide, and it killed not only Cleopatra but both of her servants, which one snake is very unlikely to manage. Even the Roman sources hedge. They say a snake was suspected, that marks were faint, that nobody actually saw it. What we do know is that she was an expert in poisons, that she had time to prepare, and that she chose the exact moment. The snake is a better story. A prepared poison is the better explanation. Number 14. She killed herself to avoid being paraded. Octavian's plan was to march her through Rome in his triumph, in chains as a trophy. Exactly as her sister had been marched. She had watched that happen. She knew precisely what was coming, and she made certain it did not. Her death was not despair. It was the last political act of a woman who refused to be a decoration in someone else's parade. Number 15. Her son was murdered within days. Caesarion, 17 years old, was the real son of Julius Caesar, and therefore the one person alive who could threaten Octavian's claim. He was hunted down and killed. An advisor is said to have told Octavian that too many Caesars is not a good thing. The Ptolemaic dynasty ended with a teenage boy on a road. Number 16. With her death, Egypt stopped existing as an independent state for nearly 2,000 years. Rome annexed it, and it became the personal property of the emperor, its grain feeding the city of Rome, not a province like any other, a possession. Number 17. She was the last pharaoh. Not the last Greek ruler. The last pharaoh, the final link in a chain of god-kings stretching back 3,000 years to the men who built the pyramids. When she died, that chain didn't shorten. It snapped. 3 millennia of pharaonic Egypt ended with a Greek woman in a room in Alexandria, on her own terms, rather than in a Roman parade. Number 18. And she lived closer in time to the moon landing than to the building of the Great Pyramid. When Cleopatra was born, the pyramid was already more than 2,000 years old, older to her than she is to us. She was not an ancient Egyptian looking up at a new wonder. She was a modern woman touring a ruin. Egypt was so old that its most famous ruler was, effectively, a tourist in it. Number 19. Her tomb has never been found. She and Antony were reportedly buried together, and the location was known in antiquity. And then it wasn't. Alexandria has been shaken by earthquakes, sunk in part beneath the harbor, and built over for 2,000 years. Archaeologists are still searching. The most famous woman of the ancient world is lying somewhere under a modern city or under the sea, and nobody knows where. Number 20. And the woman we picture isn't her. The Cleopatra in your head, the beauty, the seductress, the exotic Egyptian queen, is a Roman invention, polished for 2,000 years by people who never met her and refined by Hollywood, which needed a star. The real one was a Greek head of state who spoke 9 languages, ran an economy, murdered her rivals, out-negotiated 2 Roman warlords, and ended her own life rather than be someone's trophy. She deserved a better story than the one her enemies wrote. We're still telling theirs. Cleopatra ruled for 21 years, held off Rome for most of them, and lost. And losing is the only reason we remember her the way we do. History is written by the winners, and her winner happened to be a man who needed her to be a whore. 3,000 years of pharaohs ended with her, and we still can't find where they put her. If you like the strange corners of history, subscribe.